Sam is now a Category 2 hurricane. That is the latest on Hurricane Sam. As of right now, as you can see, this is a very small hurricane. I'm going to pause right here. As you can see, a well-defined eye has developed. Uh, an eye wall, according to satellite, is starting to develop at a better. It's improving. Its structure is improving for sure. Yeah, this is a ring of minus, like, upper minus 60s right here, some into the minus 70s. So yeah, it's starting to develop. It's now as a well-defined eye. It's starting to develop an eye wall. So there it is. It's now a Category 2 hurricane according to the National Hurricane Center. At 11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the eye of Hurricane Sam was located near latitude 12.4 degrees north, longitude 49.9 degrees west. Sam is moving towards the west-northwest now, near 14 miles per hour. So the speed has started to increase a bit. It was 12 miles per hour last time. Now it's 14 miles per hour this time. A motion towards the west or west-northwest with a decrease in forward speed is expected over the weekend. A turn towards the northwest is forecast on Monday. Maximum sustained winds have increased to 100 miles per hour. Additional strengthening is forecast, and Sam is expected to become a major hurricane by tomorrow morning. So, yeah. It's expected to continue its rapid intensification. Its pressure is now dropped to 982 millibars. It was 986 last time. So it has a pretty big pressure gradient at that point because it's such a small hurricane. It basically says that right here. Hurricane force winds are still 15 miles from the center, and tropical storm force winds are still 60 miles from the center, but that still doesn't really change its rate of intensification at that point. So this is the 5-day cone. As you can see right here, this leeward island, the leeward island right here, I'm pretty sure that's Barbuda. That's like very close to the outer edge of the cone of uncertainty. So yeah, so this cone has it shifting more towards the west than it has been, and now Barbuda appears to be on the edge of the cone right here. You can see it right here. So right now it's not going to mean very much, but there could be a few impacts on the Leeward Islands, especially with the surf and the swells and rip currents and everything. And cross-checking this with basically the tracks, it seems that it is going to be slightly closer to the Leeward Islands than it has been, according to several models. And yeah, not a lot of them have it. Not a lot of them go after 5 days out, and they have it going towards the north after that. That's way too early to really talk about. What we can talk about is just that after 5 days, we don't know what's going on. What we can tell you is that for the next 5 days, it's expected to continue through its west-northwest motion, more towards the northwest, and that's pretty much where it leaves it off for the time being. Intensity models are continuing. As you can see, it's a 100 mile per hour or 85 knot Category 2 hurricane. The majority of the models have it going up to Cat 3 in the next 12 hours. So that's pretty huge. And now a good chunk of the models have it going up to Category 4. The NHC still has it going up to a 140 mile per hour hurricane. I think that's right on par on what this thing's going to do. This one model, though, has it jumping all the way up to a Category 5 hurricane. So, yeah, has it jumping even after it becomes a Cat 4, then jumps up in intensity, becomes a Category 5 briefly, and then decreases by that point. So the winds they have here are about 170 miles per hour for this model. So that really shows you nothing below, like, basically, this really shows you nothing is off the table at this point. There's a model right there that has it going up to Cat 5 strength. Now, do I think it's going to happen? It's unlikely at this time. But could it happen? Absolutely. But the majority of the models have it keeping it to Cat 3 or Cat 4 strength. NHC has it going up to 140 miles per hour. And it's not going to be the conditions that are going to weaken it, honestly. For a storm that small, if it gets that intense, we could see an eye wall replacement cycle on it because of how small it is. And if it ends up not going very well, it could knock down its intensity quite considerably. But what it would also do is just expand it drastically in size depending on how great the ERC is. So if an eye wall replacement cycle does take place, this thing could expand in size. This is, once again, a very small hurricane. This is actually smaller than Hurricane Andrew was. So that just puts that into context right there. And 100-mile-per-hour winds and only a 15-mile radius. The eye appears to be the eye appears to be about 10 nautical miles. So all I can say to that is that that's unsustainable. At that point, that's unsustainable. Either A, the wind is going to have to expand outward some to accommodate for about a 10 nautical mile eye, or B, the eye is going to have to really contract and just then continue its intensification. Right now, it's more of a wait and see. As you can see, the eye is somewhat elliptical right now. It's not completely circular, but the structure of this hurricane looks very impressive. It's a very small hurricane, but it's a very impressive looking, and it is a very powerful hurricane right now. Wouldn't want to be anywhere near it. So anyway, there's that. Let's give you a few key takeaways before we go. First key takeaway, this hurricane is rapidly intensifying. It is now a Category 2 hurricane with winds of 100 miles per hour. It is expected to be a major hurricane in the next 12 hours. It also remains to be a small hurricane. It's still only 15 miles from the center. That's where those hurricane force winds are. And 60 miles from the center are for those tropical storm force winds, 15 and 60 respectively. Pressure's dropped to 982 millibars, so it's still strengthening. But yeah, key takeaway number 2, the cone has it shifting slightly more towards the west, according to this. Barbuda, I believe that's the island right here. You're on the edge of the cone of uncertainty. Now, am I saying that the Leeward Islands is going to see a lot, like a huge impact from this hurricane? No, I'm not. In fact, if I can go right here, not a single model has this making a landfall at the Leeward Islands. But what I can say is that the closer it gets to the Leeward Islands, the more the impacts are going to be. So I'll be keeping a very close eye on it, like right there. Key takeaway number 3, nothing's off the table for this thing. And as you can see, it's expected to become a major hurricane in the next 12 hours. And generally at nighttime, hurricanes tend to intensify much quicker because at that point the sun is gone, and for those cloud tops, it's basically there's no restraint to it, and it's going to take advantage of it as long as it can. So, but back to this, nothing's off the table. There, a big chunk of the models have it going up to Category 4 strength, including the National Hurricane Center, and there's even a model that has it going up to Category 5. So while I think that's outlandish for the time being, while I think that it's unlikely at this time, it can happen, and basically anything can happen. It just shows that nothing is off the table when it comes to this thing. These hurricanes do not joke around. Final key takeaway is that this system spent basically the last few hours just organizing, developing into basically a very organized yet small hurricane like this. This is literally the core of this right here. That's all that is. And I'm going to go back about 75 frames just to show you what's been happening throughout this whole time. Alright, so basically the system has been kind of it's became a hurricane here. It starts organizing. You can see that eye wall starting to develop. And then the eye starts clearing, but then the minus 70 ring overtakes it briefly, and then it cools down. It warms up, and then the eye clears out right there, and there it is. And those clouds are starting to get colder again. They're starting to rise again. So yeah, this is an evolving situation that I'm looking at. This is a very intense system. It's not exactly a very intense system. Well, it kind of is right now, but it's going to be an extremely intense system down the road. This is expected to become a major hurricane in the next 12 hours. It is expected to become a Cat 4 by the end of the weekend. So that's pretty much the latest on Hurricane Sam. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more updates.